Once upon a time, in a bustling town, there lived a merchant who made a living by selling salt. He lived with his wife and two sons. The elder son was shy, quiet, and always hesitant to interact with strangers. In contrast, the younger son was lively, confident, and had great communication skills. Because of his reserved nature, the elder son was often considered unintelligent and was taken advantage of by others, yet he never complained or resisted. The father was frequently disappointed and angry at the elder son's timid behavior. Instead of encouraging him, he often scolded him, which made the boy even more insecure. As he grew older, his lack of confidence hindered his studies. During exams, fear kept him from answering well, and he constantly felt confused and lost. Later, when he became an adult, the father asked him to help with the family business. Though afraid of disappointing his father, he agreed. However, due to anxiety and nervousness, he kept making mistakes, which made his father increasingly furious. One day, while the father was away, a group of strangers came to the shop and falsely claimed that his father had sent them to collect goods. Because of his shyness and fear of confrontation, the young man allowed them to take all the salt. When his father returned and found the shop empty, he was enraged, shouted at his son, calling him a fool, and drove him out of the house. His father's disappointment, the mocking eyes of the townspeople, and his own sense of helplessness drove him to despair. He wandered to the riverbank, carrying the intention of ending his life. As he stood by the river at the darkest moment of his life, he prepared to throw himself into the water to end the pain. Just then, a young disciple happened to pass by, quickly pulled him back, and saved him from death. Angry and hopeless, the young man asked, "Why did you save me? My life is useless. I can't do anything right." The disciple gently replied, "Life only comes once. If you are still alive, you still have the chance to change and succeed. But if you give up, you'll never know who you could have become." The young man shared his sorrows. His shyness and weakness had made his father despise him. He had no education and people looked down on him. He questioned whether someone like him even deserved to live. The disciple smiled and said, "My master can answer that question. Come with me." At first, the young man refused, but moved by the disciple's sincerity, he finally agreed to follow him to meet the wise saint. At a small hermitage under a large tree, the saint sat in meditation. When the young man saw him, he burst into tears, calling the saint his last hope, and expressed his wish to end his life if change was impossible. The saint calmly listened to his story and said, "I have a way to help you, but first you must complete 3 tasks over the next 3 days. If you do, your life will change." Desperate for hope, the young man agreed to the saint's challenge. On the first day, the saint asked him to go out, speak to 10 strangers, ask them about their lives, and record their answers. Though extremely anxious and shy, he did his best to follow the instructions. Some people ignored him, others were rude, but he didn't give up. By the end of the day, he had completed the task and even made a few friends. Proud of himself, he returned to report to the saint. On the second day, the task was harder. Teach 10 young children about the importance of water. The young man panicked, thinking he wasn't educated enough to teach. The saint smiled and said, "Those children don't know that you lack knowledge. Just share the simple things you do know." With trembling hands, he stood before the children and spoke about 5 uses of water, then quickly ran away. When he returned, he admitted he was still scared, but proud to have faced it. The second time he taught, he felt more confident and realized that his fear was slowly fading. The saint smiled and said, "You are braver than you think." These small challenges were gradually helping him discover the inner strength he never believed he had. On the third day, the saint gave the final and most difficult task: return home and apologize to his father. The young man panicked. "My father will never forgive me. I can't face him." But the saint firmly said, "If you refuse, I will not reveal the final secret." Summoning all his courage, the young man returned home. He bowed and apologized to his father, expressing deep regret and promising to prove his worth. Moved by his son's sincerity and visible change, the father was speechless. Finally, he forgave his son and gave him a new chance to help with the business. The young man later returned to the saint and asked, "Master, please tell me the secret of success." The saint smiled and said, "You've already discovered it. Your greatest enemy was not shyness, it was fear. People see you the way you present yourself. Even if you feel weak, act with confidence, and no one will doubt you. True strength comes from believing in yourself." From that moment, the young man resolved not to let fear control his life anymore. Years later, he became a successful merchant, known for his wisdom and confidence. The lesson he carried with him for life was this: confidence is not something we're born with. It is something we build. Even the shyest person can become strong if they choose to believe in themselves. After the 3-day journey of facing fear and self-doubt, the young man truly changed. From someone timid, often failing and looked down upon, he became confident, strong, and determined to start over. The saint's challenges were not just tasks, they were keys that unlocked the hidden strength within him, something he had never believed he possessed. Years later, that young man became a successful businessman, respected for his wisdom and courage. He was no longer the useless son his father once scolded, but a man who had proven his worth through action and perseverance. The story ends with a profound message. Confidence is not a gift we're born with, but a skill we can build every day. No matter how shy, insecure, or inadequate you feel, you can change if you dare to step out of your comfort zone. Fear and doubt are only barriers in your mind. Once you overcome them, you'll discover your true power. Remember, the world sees you the way you see yourself. Just take one brave step forward, and you'll find a better version of yourself you never knew existed.